And the recording is starting now, so that way people who are not able to make it this morning, we can send this out to them later and they will be able to watch at a later time. So good morning and welcome to Pear Deck training. Go ahead, Mark.
All right, thanks. And we're a small enough group this morning, so go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself and jump in here right now. And so Pear Deck is basically a Google slideshow, but it's been made interactive. So there's you can put in questions for the students and they can respond, and then their responses are saved both on the student drive and they can be saved on your drive also. So you can go back and look at the slideshow with all of your student responses to see if they're understanding it or not. So it's pretty amazing. They've made a lot of improvements, especially since the school closures have happened. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Get that started here. Okay, and in the chat, there's a few links already. I put in, there's one just instructions on how to start with the Pear Deck, and there's another one that I put together. Pear Deck has made a lot of templates and a lot of example Pear Decks. For example, for Earth Day, they've made several Pear Decks that focus on the national parks that you can do with your students as well. I'm going to start off real simple of how to start with Pear Deck. Pear Deck is an add-on. It's integrated with Google Slides and only Google Slides. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go on the waffle and I'm going to open up my Google Slides. I'm going to open up a blank Google slide. Excuse me. And I'm going to put a title. Pear Deck 421. EESD 421 930. Okay, so that's just going to be my starting slide. I'm going to put that in the title there. And I'm going to add my slide. The first slide I want is going to be, for example, a math question to my students. What is 9 times 4? Okay, so when you're creating a slideshow for Pear Deck, you're going to have to think in terms of what are questions that I want my students to answer. Okay, so the next slide, I'm going to make several different slides here. The next slide, I'm going to say, explain the universe and everything. Something I want my students to do. So they can interact with that. That would be they're writing something about it. And then the next one might be find writing on a map. Okay, because you can put in, insert different maps. So I'm going to show you here, and they can do a click and drag to find the answer. And I'm going to stop there right now. So I have my Google slide, and now I have questions I want to insert. And this is where I go to add-ons up top. And with the add-ons, if I click on add-ons, you can see there's different add-ons. If you don't have the Pear Deck add-on here already, you can go to Get Add-ons. and Pear Deck will be one of the choices that you can put on there. We do have our district subscribes to Pear Deck, so we do have the premium. You already have the premium Pear Deck package, which is really nice. So I'm going to click my Pear Deck add-on, and it'll, once you put it on, it'll show up here with a little pear next to it. And when you click the add-on, what's happening is on the right here, it's giving you options now for Pear Deck. So I'm going to click on this slide here. What is 9 times 4? And down, if I scroll down, it says ask students a question, and it gives you options of the type of answers you want from your students. So this is a math question, so I'm going to do a number answer. I'm going to require a number answer from my students. And I'll know this is going to be happening because underneath in the speaker comments down here, it says this is a Pear Deck number slide. And up here it says students, enter a number. So I'm going to know what they want to do. And then there's explain the universe and everything. There's going to be a text. And after I'm done with this, I'll show you the student perspective where you can join in on this Pear Deck. Okay, so I'm going to have, it says students write your response. So I know that's in there and the students will be able to write the response. And then find writing on a map. One thing I need to do is I need to get a map. So I'm going to insert, or here I can go to, the neat trick is down here, there's an explore button. I can click explore, and on the side here, I'm going to search on the web here, and I'm going to put Redding, California map and see what comes up. I'll click on images. And this looks like a good map to enter. Okay. And I close that, go back to my Pear Deck, and I'm going to make this a draggable. When it's a draggable, you can drag a dot, but since this is a map, there's choices here, things that you can use for your draggable. I'm going to make a pinpoint there. I'm going to update this slide. And then I am going to add one more. And this is for Christine, you might like this one. So make it's a science joke, selfie. It's drawing a cell. And this is going to be a draw, because I want them to draw a cell. There, so I'm all done. We've created a Pear Deck with different types of questions. And all I did was go on Google Slide. I put up a question or something I want the students to do. And with the Pear Deck add-on, I just clicked what type of answer I want from the students here in the blue.
Mark, will you show them where to find the canned slides?
Yes, that's what I was going to do right next.
Oh, great minds think alike.
Yes, so at the end here, if I scroll up, they have a template library. And on the template library, if I click the arrow, there are template slides, kind of like a Google Classroom question that you can put in for beginning of lesson, bell ringers and do nows are right there, so you can look. And they have different examples of different types of slides that you do at the beginning of the lesson that you can just pop in. During a lesson, end of lesson, they have critical thinking slides, social emotional learning, checking in with the students. It's really important right now. Even they have slides for subject areas. They have for primary students, like for Jill, they have fill in the missing letter, circle the items that start with B. So you can put in one of these slides. You can edit the slides once they're in if you want, or you can just use them as is. So for I'm at the end of my slideshow. So I'm going to go to end of lesson. And I'm going to select one of these. In 1 minute, write the most important thing from today's lesson. So I'm going to choose this one. And boom, there's my slide. Students will write a response. All right, so are there any questions before I move on from this part of just creating a slideshow and importing the Pear Deck questions?
I had a question. Do you kind of have to play with the questions a little bit to figure out maybe how you appreciate the responses? Does that make sense? So maybe you might put a drag one and then you realize, oh, I hate how that data looks. I want, I don't know, to use a different question.
Yeah, so can you change, like from this one right here that I did, can I change it, instead of dragging an icon, can I make it a letter, like a text answer? Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then I would just click on text. And you can see here, now it's changed to write your response.
Awesome. So if I decide I'm like, oh, no, I don't want that to be a short answer. I want it to be something else instead. That's easy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any way to have two types of questions on one slide?
There is not
Okay.
at this point.
So you just maybe duplicate the slide and do the second thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And just so that you guys know, the most versatile type of question to ask is draw, because students can choose to draw through the mouse pad, a mouse, or on the screen, or they can also choose a text box on that same one. So kind of my go-to is draw, unless I want something that's more specific, because it does give the students a little bit of an option.
Did we give them touch screens, or do the ones they have not have touch screen?
They do not have touch screens.
It's actually a mixture of both. Some do, some do not.
Oh.
We just started giving away our touch screens on our last distribution. So at this point, some do, some do not.
Assume that they do not.
Correct.
But they can
Thanks.
still draw.
Right.
And they can actually, the cool thing about Pear Deck is that it can be done on any device. It can be done on their phone. It doesn't have to be their Chromebook that they're on. They can log on, as long as they can log on as themselves with their EESD account, they can access a Pear Deck from anywhere. So in terms of access, Pear Deck is awesome. Okay. Are we ready to move on?
Mark, real quick.
Yeah.
So after we make that, even if it's just one slide, can we put that into our Google Classroom? Is that
Yes, you can import any Pear Deck lesson into a Google Classroom.
Oh, okay.
All
And
right.
then,
Sorry, I have another quick question on the themes. So what would you, obviously at the end of this, you use the theme to like end your lesson, but what other types of themes and things? So I saw one that was like a little kid one. I think it said like
So your
birthdays.
template library
Yeah.
is right here. And once you tap on that template library, you just scroll down and it'll give you all the examples. So are you looking for anything specific?
Well, I just saw the littles one and I'm curious what little, yeah, that one.
So that one, it has like fill in the letters. So they would draw in the A, circle the items that start with the letter B. So they circle around the bat and the other bat and the bug. Listen to the story and draw a picture of the setting. So they may have something where you can insert a website and maybe they have a link that you listen to it. I'm not sure what that one is. I'll add it.
Cool. So we can just kind of explore these and
Yeah, you
pop 'em in
explore
whenever we want.
these and I don't know what that one is. So we'll try it out and see what happens. If you have slow internet at home, this may take a little bit to upload, but not nearly as bad as Screencastify. All right.
Mark, we had a question about are Pear Decks self-correcting? So do they
They do
grade
not.
automatically?
They do not grade automatically. You do have to go in there and check them out. So I wish. You can always give them feedback, and that might be something to work on. Okay, I'm going to move on here to the next part. So at the top, I'm still in Pear Deck. I still have that add-on here on the right. And I'm going to click on Start Lesson. So it's giving me a choice now. Do I want to start my lesson? Am I going to go live? Like, am I going to be doing a Zoom or something, or be sharing screens, or we're all on the same Pear Deck at the same time? That's instructor-paced activity. This is for the classroom more. But if you're also going to be with all your students at the same time online and you want to do this virtually with your students, you can do that as well. For remote learning, I would suggest student-paced activity. The student-paced mode allows your students to do it at their own time, asynchronously. So you don't have to be there with them while they're doing it. So I'm going to click on student-paced activity. Wait for it. Okay, and now I have the option. I can go as a link. I can share it to the classroom, or I can tell students to go to joinpd.com and enter this code. And I don't know if this is tricky for you or not, but this time I'm going to ask you to go ahead and look at it from a student perspective and go to join, open up a new tab, or if you want to go on your phone, you can do this. Well, your phone might be a little bit more difficult, but go to joinpd.com and enter the code right here.
Could you read the code? Oh, yeah. Okay,
yes.
sorry.
DMXJM. And I need to write that down. DMXJM.
And just have to say it, as we're doing distance learning, the easiest way to assign these Pear Decks would be to click that share to classroom. Most teachers that are using Pear Deck right now during distance learning, that's what they're already doing. But I just wanted to tell you guys as you're playing with it, that is by far the easiest way for both you and students, just to click that share to classroom.
So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Share to classroom. Show you what it looks like. So I go to share to classroom. It says choose class. I'm going to go down and use my test class here and choose action. Now, Jenny, what would you recommend for them? I would recommend create assignment, but maybe you have a different.
Yeah, I guess then you could attach a due date because it is student paced. So then you want them to be done by Friday. That probably would make most sense in our situation currently.
Okay, so I'm going to click on create assignment. And then I click on OK. And then I will do Pear Deck. EESD 421. This is the 9:30 session. All right. And you can put due dates. I'll put due date here. So then it just becomes like anything you attach to a Google Classroom. You can schedule it. I'm just going to assign it right now. Okay, and I've posted it to my class so that it asks me to view from my classroom perspective. And there it is. I posted a new assignment. I can click on that. And I'll go under instructions. And I will click on the Pear Deck. And ask, how are you feeling today? Or they can skip it. Okay, so this is on self-paced mode. So down here on the right, they can click to the next slide. And this is me as a student. So again, it does not check if I got the right answer or not. That's up to the teacher to check it here. But you do get a record of every student, student's Pear Deck as well. And then I'll go on to the next slide. So remember that slide that I wrote, what is 9 times 4, and asked for a number? So it's only allowing for numbers to go in. Here's the next one. Explain the universe and everything. I'll put, what was it, 49, I think, from the novel. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. All right. And so I will go on to the next one. And you'll notice here on the right down below, when I submit an answer, it'll put a check mark right here. Oh, I chose a very bad map. Okay, so we'll put the click and drag to Reading right here. And then once I did that, you notice that there's a check mark and it shows the student that they've completed that slide. And then listen to the story and draw a picture for the setting, and I don't see the story. So maybe you had to insert a story in a previous slide for them to, or in the next slide, for them to go toggle back and forth. But you're allowed to draw anywhere on this slide.
Mark, will you show them just the how to do text box and all that stuff?
Okay. So the options that students have for the drawings, you can see the multitude of colors. Over here on the left, there's a sizer, so they can draw really fat or really small and tiny. There's a highlighter where they can do a sizer and they can highlight things as well when it's a draw. They can also draw straight lines. So if you're doing any type of geometry or connecting of anything, they can draw lines. There's an eraser to erase anything, like I did a little faux pas there. And then there's text. In the text, there's a sizer for the text on the left. And they create a text box. So again, when they click on text, they can create a text box. And then they can type within the text box. They can also undo anything with the undo icon. So I can put away that text or create a new one. So drawing, even if you want the students to draw or enter a short text answer, you can choose the draw option when you're creating your questions.
And in the chat, I just put a link to a YouTube video that explains how to take a PDF or anything of that sort, like a reading kind of thing that you would want to then plop into a slide. If you wanted to use that highlight option that Mark showed you a minute ago, that video shows you how to take the PDF and put it into a Google slide. And then you would just choose this draw question option, and students can then highlight over top of the text that you want them to show their evidence or whatnot. It's pretty sweet if you combine all that together.
All right. And let me go into the next question. Make a selfie. So you can draw little organelles and draw the cytoplasm around the organelles and so forth. So you can have them create that. Again, there's a checkbox. They know that there's 6. We've completed 6 out of 8 slides, so they know where they're at within the slideshow. They can go back and correct their slides if they want as well. Slide 7 was a blank. And then here's that other template slide that we put in. And interestingly, they can do, they can say all done. But if they want to add another response in the text responses, they can click add another and it'll add. So if they want to correct what they did in the text, then they can create another answer. Okay, so that's the student perspective. Are there any questions?
Is there no turn in? So it just when they're done, they just X out of that?
Yeah, so this one, because it's student self-paced, once they're all done with all the slides, it automatically saves it.
Are you able to see will it show that they finished on our Google Classroom, like when they've gone through, do you know what I mean? How they normally submit or you're done or something?
Yeah, well, this won't show me because none of the students actually did it. But it should say that it's all done. Or, go ahead, Jenny.
If you give me a minute, I'll go in because I'm in this Google Classroom as a student from you.
Okay.
Give me a minute to go in and do it.
And we'll check it out.
Like. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
So I did do it. I'm not in your classroom, but I did it with your code.
Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen is, if you did it with my code, what should happen here. I'll go to my teacher dashboard here.
And at the end, I didn't feel like I hit submit, kind of like what Hillary was asking. What do I do at the end? I just stop?
And you just stop.
And then I would have closed it.
And here, yeah, so I'm back into the original Pear Deck here. And it says I have 6 out of 7 students enrolled here on this. And it shows me the students that are on there. Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense there?
Yes. And so I'm curious, can you see what I did? I did do it, and I hit the last slide.
This is sorry. Yes, you can. But this is a new thing. When I clicked on that, if the students are not putting in new appropriate answers I want, I can block them from the session.
Okay.
That's a brand new thing. But let me go back here. And I'm going to open projector. So this is where it gets a little bit more involved. I can end this session, and when I end it, all the answers will be put into my my drive, and those are called, in the drive, I can find them under what's called takeaways. But right now I'm going to show you one other thing. The 3 dots here, I'm going to open projector in new tab. I'm open a dashboard, a new window. Well, this is giving me the same thing. Okay. So let's say that we've all, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to click on end because, and I'm going to title this ESD PD 421-930. And this is why I've clicked it end. I'm going to publish student takeaways. That means that the takeaways, what your answers are, those are called the takeaways. They're going to be published into my Google Drive, and I'm going to save and end this session. All right, if you want to share the takeaways with your students so that the students have their answers, I'm going to share that to their Google Classroom so now they can have their answers that they created. And this is a brand new update that they've just done, that they've created. The takeaway will also be, so that's their own takeaway is what they get. They don't get everybody's answers, just their own. So it's generating their own takeaway. None of my students have taken this yet, so nothing's going to show up for them at this point. I'm going back to ending the session. I published the takeaways already, and I ended this session. When you end the session, the students cannot go back and find, and start the session again unless you give them permission to do so. All right, and this is the homepage for Pear Deck, where they give you more options of what to create. So let me review. So I created the Pear Deck. I sent it out via Google Classroom. The students have taken it. I sent back their takeaway to them in Google Classroom so they can view what they did. It doesn't give them the right answers. It just shows them what the Pear Deck was and what their answers were. So that later they can pull it up if you're having a one-on-one session with the student, say, hey, pull up that Pear Deck. Let's see how you did with it. Then here, and we'll see if this worked well, in my drive, if I look up takeaways, there's a folder called takeaways. In my drive, it's automatically created by Pear Deck. And here's where I would see the takeaways, if any, were created. So here they are. Okay. And this is one that we're creating. This one was a blank, unfortunately, but the students, their answers come up in the takeaway, so you can review the answers if you're going to meet with a student. You can also send their answers to their classroom. So if you're meeting with a student one-on-one or a group of students, you can say, hey, who got this answer for this Pear Deck? And it could be part of your Zoom meeting. All right, I'm going to stop the share right now and see if there's any questions you might have and how you might want to apply this. Yes, Joe.
Mark, there's a question in the chat.
Okay.
It says, just to make sure, I manually need to go through each slide and correct it and send it back to the student after they finish their work.
If you're going to score the slides, yes, you'd have to manually go through and correct it. If you're using it as it's a formative tool, so you can create your own answers and send that out to the students would be one thing that you might want to do. And if you create your own and then send that out as a master template if you wanted to do that, I imagine. But no, you would, if you're scoring them, you'd have to go through one by one with the students that are in your takeaways folder in your drive.
Another question, Mark. Is there a way to see the dashboard and view all answers at once?
There is. If you don't do the student page view where they do it on their own time, if you're doing everybody together, then there's a way that you can not only see all the work that's happening all at once, then you can also choose, if you want to display one student's work, you get to choose which students you can display up on your screen at a time so that everybody can look at it. So if you're doing it all together, then you can do your screen, you can show the student answers and you can see them.
And when you do that, when you choose the teacher-led, which is what Mark's saying, when you do it all together, you choose that teacher-led option. It's wonderful because then you can see students' screens live as if you're watching them in a doc. You know, you can see them live. If you have access to that doc that they're working on, you can actually see them typing. Same goes for Pear Deck. You can see them drawing as they're drawing. It's really nice. And in our situation, if you wanted to do this in a Zoom or a Meet, that would be a really handy thing, and you can see them live. It's beautiful that way.
So I'm going to interrupt real quick. And for math, for example, they put for their lessons, they put their slideshows in Pear Deck, and in class, they're seeing all their students' responses all right there on the spot. and they can choose one student's work to go up on the screen for the class to share, and it's done anonymously. There's no name attached to it when you're sharing it. So when you're back in the classroom, this is a very powerful tool to use.
And when I was a student in Mark's Google Classroom and I went to go do the Pear Deck, I did have to choose mark as done. So as if a student had a doc that you would assign them, you wanted to do them a journal write or whatever, they would, once they were done, click mark as done. So that is still an option and kind of normal for those students that are used to it.
Would you suggest putting a slide at the end that just gives them that instruction? Okay, now you're finished. Go back into Google Classroom and mark as done.
That would be brilliant. Yeah, that would be brilliant.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I also put in the chat at the very beginning, and then we will post this chat sometime on the teacher website, they have a ton of materials. Like I said, for Earth Day, they have ready-made templates for all grade levels. They have templates for social emotional learning, or ready-made slide decks for social emotional learning, ready-made slide decks for some science and some math concepts. And I put that link in there. And they also have one called Pear Pop, where it's just like a quick question, kind of like a Google Classroom question that you can just pop in there if you're in Google Slides with your students. So they have a lot of resources. It's kind of like a Pinterest thing. Once you start going, you get comfortable with it, then there's many different layers that you can expand on.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Hillary. I was just going to encourage everyone to use Pear Deck. It's awesome.
I just am still, I think, a little unclear on how to see their responses. I'm planning on pushing it out through Google Classroom because that's how I've been doing everything. So if they do mark as done, does it do slides for each kid? You know, when you normally just put slides in, create a slideshow, they turn in, I can click on each kid and see their slideshow. Does it do something like that in Classroom, or do I have to go through the Pear Deck dashboard to see their responses?
You know, I'm not sure because I haven't done it lately with the changes with students. Maybe Jenny knows.
Well, do you want to pull up your Google Classroom that I'm in that you assigned to that Google Classroom? I didn't go through and answer everything, but at least you could show them what it looks like.
Let me share my desktop again. All right, so Jenny turned one in. Can you see my desktop now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one is turned in. And it looks like you're not able to see it.
If you go to your dashboard, can you pull mine up then?
Let's see here. So if I go to my Pear Deck dashboard?
Yes.
If the easiest way to do it is if I went to my drive and
Okay, takeaways.
I went to takeaways. And I'm not sure if Jenny's has shown up yet or not. It looks like it hasn't shown up yet. You can do that, or here. Let me leave the session. So no, because I think if Jenny's not in there, so I don't have, or I ended the session, it's not going to show it right now. I'll have to play with it a little bit, Hillary, and then get back. Unless Jenny, you want to add something?
Well, I was going to ask, can you see anyone's work from people that joined the session that use the code? Because I'm wondering if there's a bit of a lag between Classroom and Pear
So
Deck
here's
itself.
Open Teacher Dashboard. Okay. And at the moment, it's not giving me that. It's not giving me that option at the moment. It's just opening there. I have to play with it with their updates of what they've been. Oh, here we go. Show responses. I apologize. So here's the responses. Here's a grid layout, so I can see the responses of the 4 students that are in there already. Okay. So I can see all the responses of the students, but I don't think that's what Hillary's looking for. She's looking for all the responses from one student that she can.
Well, that would work too, but I didn't see how you got there.
This is when it's live. So what I did, because they had, this is a new feature that I wasn't familiar with that they just added. There's an arrow on the left here. So I'm in presentation mode. This is where I'm at right now, or I was at the beginning. There's an arrow down on the right. And there I can hide responses of students so they don't see what the responses are. I can lock screens, and then I can also show a specific student if I want to. Like here's, you're only seeing, if you're on there, you'd only see Hillary's answer if I click the star there. And then if I go to each question, each slide, it'll show me the answers for every student that's answered. So I'll go back to the beginning, Hillary, so you can see how I got there.
Okay. I would still like to see it by individual students, like their whole thing, but this will be a good start.
And then the individual students should be in your drive under takeaways. That'd be,
okay.
That's the way that I'm used to seeing it. If I find another way that they've updated, I'll let you know. Okay.
I have a question for Jenny, since you know where I'm at. With 4 classes, with the takeaways, should I figure out how to present them or push them out separately so that the takeaways come in a separate folder for each one?
Yes, that's how I would recommend it, is give each one a different session. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have to push out from the slideshow itself, or can I do the add-on in like add assignment in Google Classroom? Will it still work the same, or do you have to do the start lesson, student paste, share to classroom procedure to get it to be the Pear Deck one?
If you want students to do it at their leisure and see all the appropriate screens that they need, you have to choose student paste.
Okay.
Is that what you were asking?
Well, I just didn't know if I could push it out by going into Google Classroom,
right?
And like
add it from, you can add it from your drive. They're all in your drive.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. If I could just add it. And then would you click make a copy for each student? Or is that going to be weird?
No, because you have to, right, Mark? Don't you have to push it out through the Pear Deck add-on by clicking start lesson for students to be able to draw or write or whatever needs to be done on it? I think what's in your drive is just your teacher version. Am I correct on that?
That is true. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So to push it out to kids,
Mhm.
if you're not going to be there to show them your screen for them to see the question and whatnot, you want to do student paced. Because if you do teacher paced, that's you showing them your screen, sharing it. You have beautiful options, and this is how we recommended you doing it in the classroom. But you're kind of pushing the kids along and clicking them to the next slide. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Did I answer your question?
I believe so. That I can't launch it from Classroom. I need to go through the Pear Deck add-on. That's what I need. I should have asked it better. Sorry.
Right. But if you don't want to click, like for some reason, if you don't want to click, you know, Mark went through and he chose student paste from the Pear Deck add-on.
Uh-huh.
And then he had 3 options. He could copy the link, he could click share to classroom, or he could just share the code with his students with instructions to go to that join PD or whatever it was .com. You can choose either one of those 3 ways.
Okay.
Like if you wanted to make an assignment in Google Classroom and you wanted to copy the link,
Yeah.
you could go to your normal Google Classroom, click create in Google Classroom, create an assignment. Maybe you attach something else that you want them to do with the Pear Deck.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I could go back in
down
and
to
edit
the
it
link.
through the, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
More steps, but if you're more familiar with that,
Sure.
that might ease you a little bit.
I'm getting better at Classroom every day.
You are
Okay, now I thought of another question, and hopefully it's not boring to everyone else. But with the multiple classes, so I create a slideshow for period 1, and then I go to do I need to recreate? Is there a way to make a copy so I don't have to recreate?
Yeah.
Okay, and then just rename it and send it out to period 2 and so on. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd click start a session in each of your copies.
And do each one separately. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I had a lot of questions today. I'm excited about this one. I want to do it with placing notes on the staff and stuff.
Yeah. No, Pear Deck is awesome. It could be a little clunky at first as you're learning. Like Marissa was asking at the beginning, like, I don't know which question how I want it to look. So just make it short and simple at first, but Pear Deck is awesome, especially when we get back to actual classrooms. It is hugely engaging. It's lovely.
Very good.
And this would be even for the littles. You can make these at centers in the classroom.
So cool.
Where they can trace the letter A or B or whatever it is you want. All right, so I think that's it. Are there any other questions? Go on. If you, again, always feel free to email Jenny or I or Kristen if you have, well, Kristen is kind of flooded, but feel free to contact us if you have any questions about the Pear Deck as you get started. If you want to test us as one of your students when you're starting this to see if it'll work for you. I know we won't be in your Google Classroom, but you can just check to see if the Pear Deck works for you. You can also go enter a private account, a different account, and test it on yourself, or log in as a student to test it. But it's a really good resource on self-paced. It allows the students to really focus on the tasks at hand. Just make sure that it's not the questions aren't too difficult. Make it fun and engaging for the students, and you'll get increased responses back. And then it'll give you something to talk about in your next Zoom meeting when you're meeting with your students. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys for learning about Pear Deck, and I look forward to hearing about how you're doing with it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark.